Hello, everybody. So, we'll be discussing about anti-hepatitis drugs in this session. So, we'll be under this session, we'll be listing the examples of drugs which are used for hepatitis B viruses and hepatitis C viral infections. And we'll be describing the pharmacology of each of these drugs. So before we go into the session as such, you have to remember something which are some general points about the anti-hepatitis drugs. That is, they are not curative. They suppress the viral replication. They put the patient in remission and prevent complications, but they are not curative. They have to be taken for a long duration, and the disease can flare up when the drugs are stopped. Most of the drugs that we are going to discuss today will be nucleoside or nucleotide analogs. Most of them will be prodrugs, and most of them are converted to the phosphate form. That is, the active form will be a phosphate form. And most of these drugs will be either inhibiting the DNA polymerase or the RNA polymerase, as the case may be. These are some of the common things that you will be seeing in almost all the drugs that we'll be discussing today. Now, let us first list the examples for hepatitis B viral infections. So, under this, you have got lamivudine, telbivudine, entecavir, adifovir, and tenofovir. Of all these drugs, the first line drugs are entecavir and tenofovir. Entecavir and tenofovir. The others are all second line drugs for the hepatitis B infections. And I have in the brackets, I have just given the abbreviated versions of these drugs. You can learn them if you are interested. Drugs for HCV mainly include ribavirin, which we already discussed a little bit about it in the case of anti-influenza drugs also. Then you have got interferon alpha, and then we have got a new set of drugs which are called as a directly acting antiviral drugs, that is DAA. Under this, you have got NS5B polymerase inhibitor, that is sofosbuvir. Then you have got NS3 or 4A protease inhibitor, imiprivir. Then NS5A inhibitor, daclatasvir and ledipasvir. And all these NS5B, NS3, NS4A, you are already knowing about all these. They are called non-structural proteins, which we have discussed in the pre-session material that I had shared with all of you. So first we will look into the drugs for hepatitis B. Under this, first we are going to discuss about lamivudine. So it is a cytidine nucleoside analog. It is phosphorylated intracellularly. It inhibits the DNA polymerase. So all general points that we discussed initially has been seen in this case also. It will cause the viral DNA chain termination by getting incorporated into the viral DNA. This is how, and this will indirectly can inhibit the HBV DNA polymerase, something very similar to that we have seen in acyclovir. The drugs, many of the virus have developed resistance to it because of the mutation in their DNA polymerase. It has got good oral bioavailability. Its usual plasma T-half is 6 to 8 hours, but it is around 12 hours for cells which are infected with hepatitis B infection. It is excreted unchanged in the urine. As far as ADRs are concerned, it is well tolerated. The usual ADRs which can be seen are mild ones like headache, fatigue, nausea, anorexia, abdominal pain, rashes. Very rarely you will see pancreatitis and neuropathy. Then it is used for mainly chronic HBV infection at a dose of 100 milligram OD. It can also be used for HIV. So you can remember here that it is not the first line drug. It brings about the changes in the clinical, biochemical, and histological parameters of hepatitis B infection, but these changes will not be sustained over a year. That means the virus will be developing resistance to this drug within a span of 1 to 5 years. So it is not the first line drug. You can see HIV, it is used at a dose of 150 to 300 milligram OD. Why the dose is higher in HIV is because, as I already told you, the T-half of this drug in the HBV infected cells is higher, is longer. This is not the case with HIV cells. That is why you require a higher dose for treating HIV. Now we'll look at the next drug, that is telbivudin. It is a thymidine nucleoside analog which is similar to lamivudin. We'll just look at the differences from lamivudin. It has got a T-half of 15 hours, slightly longer, then faster and more complete suppression of viral titer than lamivudin. You can call it more potent. And sometimes you can see cough and rise in serum amylase as additional ADRs with telbivudin. Then we have got the entecavir. Entecavir is guanosine nucleoside analog with the same mechanism of action as lamivudin. From the what are the differences from lamivudin? Its absorption is affected by food. You have to always administer it in empty stomach. You can see the T-half very long. That is 128 to 148 hours. And you can see some additional ADRs in entecavir like sleep disturbances and lactic acidosis. Otherwise, it is more or less similar to that of lamivudin. It is the first line drug for HPV. So it produces rapid clinical, biochemical, and histological improvement, more than that seen in lamivudin. And the best part is that the effect is sustained and the development of resistance is rare. These are the three reasons why entecavir is considered as the first line drug in hepatitis B. Remember, entecavir is the first line drug in hepatitis B viral infections. Then we have got adifovir. Adifovir is an AMP nucleotide analog. It is a prodrug. It gets activated to adifovir and the mechanism of action is same. That is, it is inhibiting the DNA polymerase. You can see it's also a very well tolerated drug, and occasionally you can have sore throat, headache, weakness, flu-like syndrome, abdominal pain, and very rarely at high doses you get nephrotoxicity. So this is also another drug, that is adifovir. It is used in chronic hepatitis B. Again, it is not a first-line drug. It is only used in lamivudin-resistant cases. So we have only found one first-line drug, that is entecavir so far. Now we'll go to the tenofovir. Tenofovir is again a nucleotide analog. It's a prodrug. It is converted to tenofovir, and it is similar to adifovir, but the only difference is a first-line drug for HPV because of its high efficacy, good tolerability, and low risk of development of resistance. It has also got a high activity against HIV. So tenofovir, entecavir, they are the first-line drugs for hepatitis B infection. So once again, so we have seen the drugs, that is lamivudin, then we have seen telbivudin, entecavir, adifovir, tenofovir, of which we have only discussed entecavir and tenofovir as the first line drugs. The other drugs are used when as a second line drug. Now we'll see the drugs for hepatitis C. So first one is ribavirin. So we have discussed it under the anti-influenza drug also, but here we will just discuss a little bit more. That is, it is a guanosine nucleoside analog. It has got broad spectrum antiviral activity. As I already told you, in influenza A and B, HCV, respiratory syncytial virus. Mechanism of action, it is phosphorylated inside the cells and it is inhibiting the RNA polymerase and stops the viral RNA replication. So here onwards, you have to remember the inhibition is of the RNA polymerase. It has around 50% of bioavailability, and it accumulates in the body for a long time. That it is remaining in the body for a long time, and T-half is around 10 days. And for HCV infection, you can give 200 milligram QID or 400 milligram TDS for body weight more than 75 kilogram. That is, the usual dose is 200 milligram QID, but for body weight more than 75 kilogram, you have to give 400 milligram TDS. So it's available as aerosol also, as I already discussed in the case of anti-influenza drugs. So ribavirin. It is used for chronic hepatitis C in combination with other drugs. RSV bronchiolitis in children. It is mainly used as an aerosol. ADR we have already discussed, that is hemolytic anemia, bone marrow suppression, CNS and GIT effects. It is teratogenic, and any person who is on this ribavirin has to practice contraception. Next class of drugs is interferon. So interferon alpha. So what are interferons? Interferons are low molecular weight glycoprotein cytokines. These are glycoprotein cytokines which are produced by the host cells in response to the viral infections or interleukin 1 and other inducers. So they are produced by the host cells in response to either viral infections, interleukin 1 or other inducers. These substances or these glycoprotein cytokines have got antiviral effects and their effects on immunity and also cell proliferation. So they have got antiviral effects, they have effects on the immunity, and they have got effects on the cell proliferation also. There are three types of interferons which are produced by humans, that is alpha, beta, and gamma, of which alpha is used clinically. Now, what is the mechanism of action? So it exerts its action through JAK-STAT tyrosine kinase receptor. So already you have learned elaborately about JAK-STAT tyrosine kinase receptor in your general pharmacology. You will revise that once again. So by acting through this receptor, it results in the production of antiviral proteins. And the antiviral proteins, they will block the viral multiplication at various steps. That is, viral penetration will be prevented, synthesis of the viral messenger RNA, mRNA will be prevented, further protein synthesis, that is translation will be prevented, assembly of the viral particles and release will be prevented. So you can see that all the steps of viral replication is probably interfered with these interferons. Now, the pharmacokinetics, it is available for parenteral administration either by the intramuscular or subcutaneous route only. It is distributed to the tissues and partly degraded in the kidney and partly in the liver. It is detectable in plasma for less than 24 hours, but the effect of it in the tissues will be for a longer time because it will be inducing the production of various proteins which will continue to act in the tissues. Now, the preparations which are available are the standard interferon alpha 2A and alpha 2B preparation, which we have just shown you the differences. You can see alpha, and then you have got the pegylated interferon alpha. So this interferon alpha available as IM or subcutaneously, whereas the other one is available subcutaneously. This is the PEG one is having slower absorption, has sustained effects, and hence you can give it weekly administration. It has got better clinical effects. It has got longer lasting remissions, and it is more use. But only problem is it is costly. On the other hand, the standard interferon alpha is available for intramuscular and subcutaneous use, but it is you have to administer it for 3 times a week. But the other one, that is PEG interferon alpha, is much better with better benefits, but it is slightly costlier. It is used for chronic hepatitis B, chronic hepatitis C, AIDS-related Kaposi sarcoma, condyloma acuminata, even for herpes simplex, herpes zoster, and cytomegalovirus infection. But again, for cost reasons, it may not be resorted for all these infections. The simple infections which we can treat with other drugs. For cancers, also it is used for CML, follicular lymphoma, cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, multiple myeloma, and all. So you have to remember the uses of interferon. The ADRs are very distressing. They can cause flu-like syndrome, especially after the injection is given. The patient can develop fatigue, fever, pains, dizziness, nausea, taste and visual disturbances. Neurotoxicity and bone marrow suppression can also occur. So somewhat distressing syndromes are adverse reactions are seen with the interferon. Even other dysfunctions like organ dysfunctions like thyroid dysfunction, caltoxicity, alopecia, reversible in liver dysfunctions are is very much seen. So we can see that it is contraindicated in pregnancy, in cirrhotics, in autoimmune diseases, thyroid disease, pregnancy, coronary artery disease in infants below 1 year. Now, the last one, that is the direct acting anti-HCV drugs. That is, these drugs target specific non-structural viral proteins that play a role in the replication of HCV inside the hepatocytes. So I already discussed that in the video that I have shared with you. These drugs have less efficacy and um, develop resistance on using as monotherapy. So they have to be used usually as a combination therapy. So whenever you're using it as a combination therapy along with other drugs, it shortens the duration of therapy and improves the clinical response. It has got minimal ADRs, but it has got significant drug interactions. So what you'll remember is that it has less efficacy with monotherapy because rapid resistance can be developed. It is usually used in combination therapy where you get a good response and can shorten the duration of therapy. It has got minimal ADRs, but significant drug interactions are seen. So already the examples of the drugs we have already discussed in the beginning of the class, the same examples you will remember. Now I have just compared all these drugs as a winding up slide here. You can see here, these are the different examples, and I've just shown you that they are inhibiting the RNA polymerase, and you can see almost all of these are active against all the 6 genotypes, whereas Favipiravir is active against 4, and the others are almost active against all the 6 genotypes. They are all orally available. Metabolism is mainly in the liver and excretion in the urine. You can see the T halves of all of them, and compare. The highest T half is for Delipasvir, which is about 48 hours. So these are all newly recognized drugs, and the others again I have just summed up the ADRs which are usually seen among all these drugs. So these directly acting anti-HCV drugs have got a lot of drug interactions because they are all metabolized by CYP3A enzyme, CYP3A4 enzyme, and they are also substrates of P-glycoprotein. So any drug which is a inducer or an inhibitor of CYP3A can have interactions with these drugs. Even drugs which are inducers of P-glycoprotein like phenytoin, rifampicin can have interactions with these drugs. Again, you can see ledipasvir and velpatasvir need gastric acid for absorption, and their efficacy is decreased by H2 blockers. So this is about hepatitis, anti-hepatitis C drugs, where we have mainly discussed about ribavirin, interferon alpha, and finally the directly acting anti-HCV drugs. So in this class, we have summarized mainly the anti-hepatitis B drugs, that is of which entecavir and tenofovir, both given orally, they can be the first line drugs. The other drugs can be lamivudine and the rest, which can be used as an additional drug. And then for hepatitis C, we can have ribavirin and interferon, and the combination drugs of ribavirin with directly acting anti-HCV drugs are also popular. All the drugs will only put the patient in remission. They are not curative. So this area of the chapter is usually not much asked in the university exam. However, the examples are important. So if you really want to revise some portions from this chapter, you can give emphasis mainly on uh, the drug examples. Then you can give emphasis for the interferon and also tenofovir and entecavir and ribavirin. These are the drugs which you can revise, but principally you can revise interferon and the examples. So thank you.